HSAs and the triple tax advantage.
It's the only thing like this.
Health savings accounts.
It's designed for now and the future.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger HSA cheerleader than you.
That's true. I love the HSA.
Today we're talking HSAs. With healthcare costs on the rise, health savings accounts can be a powerful tool to help you save for medical expenses both now and in retirement. Hi, I'm Allie Donnelly, and this is Money Unscripted, a podcast from Fidelity. We're talking life and money, jargon and judgment-free. So, HSAs. How do they work? How much can you save? And what is that triple tax advantage everyone keeps talking about? To walk us through the benefits and questions around these accounts, Amy Richardson is here. She's a Fidelity Vice President in Health and Benefit Accounts. Amy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, there's a lot of jargon and acronyms when we talk about HSAs, and it can be like a little off-putting or maybe a little overwhelming. So first and foremost, just break it down. What is an HSA?
An HSA is a health savings account, which is something that you can use if you're enrolled in a high-deductible health plan. And it is a tax-advantaged way to save money for health expenses, both now and in retirement.
All right, tax advantage. I don't know anybody who wants to pay more taxes than they are required to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what does that mean? Tax advantage, tax efficient, what is that?
This is the most amazing thing about an HSA is that it's the only investment vehicle where you can get triple tax advantages. So you put money into your HSA before taxes, like a 401k, and then the money will grow tax deferred. And as long as you use it for qualified medical expenses, you don't pay any taxes on it when you take the money out.
Flexible spending accounts, FSAs versus HSAs. What's the difference between an FSA, flexible spending account, and an HSA?
Yes, and it does get confusing, right? It's a lot of alphabet soup. Sounds about the same. An FSA is a flexible spending account, which means that you need to spend it by the end of that year in which you've contributed to it. An HSA is a health savings account. So it's designed to be saving beyond the year in which you're putting it in. So you can spend it, but then you can also save in that account. It's yours. It carries over from year to year. It's your account to take with you if you leave your employer, whereas your FSA is tied to that employer and that plan year.
All right, so FSA, use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have to have a high deductible health plan to be eligible for an HSA. How do I know that my health plan is the right kind?
One way to be sure is to check with your insurance company. They can confirm that. You can also check with your employer. And when annual enrollment comes around, if you are not currently in a high deductible health plan, that's usually when you can make your elections for what health plan you want to change to for the next year. The high deductible makes you eligible to open up an HSA. And one of the things to consider at that point in time is what you're paying now when you factor in your premiums plus your copays. And when you enroll in your high deductible health plan, you'll pay lower premiums in exchange for the high deductible, but you can put that money tax advantaged into an HSA to cover that deductible and more.
Is the money I have in my HSA automatically invested? Do I have to do something?
It is not automatically invested, mainly because you'll want to choose your own investments depending on a number of different factors. But also you may need to be spending some of the money in there. So you might not want to invest it all. So it's going to come into a core position, and then you can set up automatic investments so that it will go into the automatic investments every time it arrives in the account. The other thing too is that you can set a cash target so that you always have enough to cover maybe an emergency room visit or maybe your deductible, the full deductible amount, and then invest on top of that if it's something that you might not want to pay out of pocket and you want to use your HSA to spend.
What do you mean cash target?
So I could say that I want to make sure I always have $500 available because the last time I left an emergency room, they said I had to pay $475. So I could leave that amount in there, or I could say, well, my deductible for my family is, say, $3,000. I want $3,000 in cash, so I know that I have that for the deductible this year, but everything I contribute on top of that, I want it invested.
I still feel like even though HSAs have been around, right, I still feel like a lot of people I talk to don't know so much about it, or they don't have one, or they don't know if they have one. So can I only get an HSA through my employer?
No. No, you do not have to get your HSA through your employer. You can actually open up an HSA at Fidelity, at another financial institution, at your local bank.
Oh.
Your employer may have an affiliation with a financial company, and you would want to look into that because they may also contribute some money to your HSA. But you can hold an HSA in multiple places as long as you don't over-contribute to it based on the maximums for that year.
So I can't, if my limit is X, I can't put more than that in these multiple accounts.
Correct.
And what about the tie to the health plan? Does it still have to be high deductible?
You always have to have a high deductible health plan to open up an HSA.
Okay.
If you no longer had a high deductible health plan, the HSA can remain open. You just cannot contribute to it while you're not enrolled in a high deductible health plan.
Okay, so let's say I get my HSA through my employer, right? And then I get laid off or I take a new job and that doesn't offer an HSA. What do I do?
So that HSA is yours to keep.
Okay.
And so you can leave it through the financial institution that you opened it with your employer. You can also transfer it or roll it over to another HSA at a different financial institution. There's no tax consequences for that. You can also spend it down on qualified medical expenses or invest it all for the future.
Okay. And if my new employer doesn't have the high deductible plan, do I lose the money there?
Nope, it's still yours to keep. It's your account.
It follows you wherever.
It does.
Let's talk turkey. How much can you contribute to an HSA every year?
Well, for 2025, someone enrolled in individual coverage can contribute up to $4,300 into an HSA and up to $8,550 for family coverage. In 2026, those amounts are a bit higher. It's $4,400 for an individual plan and $8,750 for family coverage.
What about folks who are a little older?
There are catch-up contributions available. It's $1,000 if you're over age 55. And if it's a family plan, that is $1,000 for the employee and also their spouse.
Okay. So that's how much I can save, right? Is there a number that I should be targeting, so to speak? I know everyone's situation is different.
It is. I mean, the answer to that always is that it depends. And really, you should be thinking about your HSA as part of your overall investment strategy. We kind of like to think of it as a retirement plan twin, that it's something you're already saving for retirement, but really saving for medical expenses in retirement is important as well. So I would say as much as you can save is what you'd want to save, but really you're getting the tax advantage by doing anything with your HSA. So if you put the money in on a pre-tax basis and you spend it that year, you're going to spend it anyway. So you might as well get the tax advantage by putting it in the HSA. If you end up not spending it all, it's going to carry over to the next year, and you can invest that amount that you carried over to the next year as you contribute the amount that you think you need for this year. We do have a calculator on Fidelity.com that would let you look through some of these things.
Okay.
I also encourage you to think about the premiums and the difference in premiums that you'd be paying on a high deductible health plan, which is going to have a lower premium most of the time than another type of health plan. And if you put the difference into your HSA, then you'd also have a way to save that way.
So you just mentioned healthcare costs in retirement, and I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like getting to know the numbers. So talk to me about those numbers, and then how can a HSA help?
Well, according to Fidelity Research, a 65-year-old retiring today can expect to spend, on average, $172,500 in retirement on medical expenses. So double that average to $345,000 for a married couple. And so the way that an HSA can help is that you're putting this money aside in a tax advantaged way. That growth is going to be compounded. You're saving in it the same way that you'd be saving in a retirement plan, except this is for medical expenses. And if you need it for medical expenses along the way, you have access to it. When you turn 65, it basically converts to a type of IRA or 401k if you don't need to spend it on medical expenses. Now, I just told you how much you're probably going to need on medical expenses, so chances are you'll need it for medical expenses. But if you don't, then it just works like a retirement plan, meaning that you would pay ordinary income tax on what you take out of that account.
So if I use it for something non-medical related, no problem if I'm 65 plus, but I'll pay tax.
Correct.
Okay. I was really surprised to hear some of the things you could use an HSA for. I think FSA, I think my contact solution and glasses and dentists and stuff like that. But there's more and interesting things you can pay for with an HSA.
Absolutely, yeah. Some things that you may not think about are if you needed to make modifications to your home for, say, a ramp for a wheelchair, or travel expenses to go stay if you need to get care out of town somewhere. So a number of different things. Even if you have a child with special education needs, a tutor like to learn Braille, for example, can be covered with an HSA.
Oh,
so
that's
a number
great.
of different things, plus the other qualified medical expenses that you might expect.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so long as you're using them on those qualified medical expenses, you're not paying for taxes.
Correct. The other thing, too, is that you can reimburse yourself from your HSA back in time for any expenses that you that you spent on medical since you opened the HSA. So, for example, if I pay out of pocket for my prescriptions right now, I might want to save my receipts so that in the future I can reimburse myself for that money.
This is so funny. We just had this conversation yesterday with our videographer, Jim, and he was saying that his wife went back 2 years and got receipts, but there are some parameters around that, right?
Correct. It has to be after you enrolled in the high deductible health plan and after you open the HSA. So you're reimbursing yourself for things that you could have used your HSA for at that point in time, but you chose not to because you left it in the plan. You can reimburse yourself back to that point in time.
Okay. So long as you had the HSA account established
Exactly.
when you spent that money. So what happens if there's money left in this account and I pass away?
That's actually also an it depends question. So you can and absolutely should set up a beneficiary on your HSA and on all accounts that you have to make it easier for people later on. But if you are leaving your HSA to a spouse, then the spouse will receive the HSA in the same form as an HSA. They'd be able to use it the same way.
Okay.
If you're leaving it to a non-spouse, then it is taxable to that person, but they can receive the funds that are in the HSA. And if you don't name a beneficiary, then it becomes part of your final tax return.
You know, we talked about the investment opportunity, right? The money compounding. But as I'm thinking about my HSA, should I be spending some money out of that every year, or should I just try and save it for later at all costs? Or
Yeah.
not all costs, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. And the answer to that is it depends. And really, it's probably a combination of things because there are things you may need to spend it on to cover things right now. And then if you can save it and you don't have as many medical expenses in a year, then you could save and invest that amount. Most people do use it like a spectrum. You usually have a debit card that you can use for spending for right now, and then you have all of these opportunities to save. What I would say is you can think creatively with the HSA too. So say if someone said, I just don't have it in my budget right now to save for my HSA, when you receive a medical bill for a high deductible health plan expense, you could put the money in the HSA and then pay your bill from the HSA. So at least you get one out of the three tax advantages there. So you can use this account to your advantage for whatever you need to use it for.
Do I need an advisor to set up an HSA for me?
I think an advisor would certainly be able to assist in looking at your entire financial profile and where the HSA would fit into that. That may even help with how you invest in the HSA versus how you invest in a different type of an account in case you do plan to spend some of it now versus save it all for the future. But you can open up an HSA on your own as well. And then there are usually tools to help you decide how you invest it, how much to leave in cash, the calculator we talked about earlier, plus investing tools and managed accounts too, where the investments are chosen for you.
Okay. All right. So I've listened to this. I've watched this. I'm in. I want to open an HSA. What do I do?
Super easy to do. So very first thing, just as a reminder, you do have to be enrolled in an HSA eligible plan, which is a high deductible health plan. Once you do that, you can go check with your employer if they have one established. So you could open up through your employer with the relationship that they may have with a financial institution, or you can go to any financial institution and open up an HSA. It's as simple as just opening up an account.
Okay.
And then you can start contributing to it right away.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger HSA cheerleader than you.
That's true. It is the only triple tax advantaged vehicle.
Hit me one more time with the triple tax advantage.
So you put money in on a pre-tax basis, so you're not paying taxes on the money that you put into the HSA. Anything you spend it on, as long as it's a qualified medical expense, you do not pay taxes on. And you can invest it for future growth, and all of that growth is not going to be taxed as well.
And you don't lose it.
It is yours to keep. No use it or lose it like an FSA. It's designed to be for now and the future.
Awesome. Amy, this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love talking about HSAs.
Thanks to Amy, and thanks to all of you for being here. If you're looking for more information on HSAs, including that calculator tool that we talked about, head to our website. It's fidelity.com/moneyunscripted. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share the podcast, and we'll see you next time here on Money Unscripted. It's your life. Get your money's worth.